First, peel your ginger, cut them into quarters, and then cut them into thin slices, and then further cutting it into thin long strips. They should look like fries. Also cut the shallots into quarters, run them under water to minimize your crying when you cut them, and make them into the thin long strips like you did for the ginger. I got my frozen abalone from a Korean market and it took about 2 hours to defrost. As you can see here, there's ink on top of the meat, so I ran it under cold water and just used my hands to rinse off majority of the ink, but you can also do this with a clean sponge or paper towel. Here I am lifting up the fold of the abalone to get rid of more of that ink in those areas. Abalone comes with a sack of ink, so please proceed with caution when using a spoon to loosen the meat out of its shell, as it has a very interesting smell. You can either use a knife to cut off the sack of ink, but here I'm just twisting it off and bursting the sack of ink as a result. Again, wash the abalone and make sure there's very little ink left. Cut off the mouth of the abalone, and once you squeeze at the top, there should be red content coming out, and make sure to throw this away. Score the surface of the abalone meat in a diagonal direction, then turning it to cut all the way through in a diagonal direction once again. As a result, you should see some rigid cuts on your abalone meat and should look similar to teeth. On medium heat, add olive oil to the pan and swirl it around and add your sliced ginger and let it cook by itself until golden brown. Once golden brown, add in your shallots and minced garlic. Here is a little ASMR moment. I used the oil and the sweat of the shallots to dissolve the anchovy stock powder and just stirred it into the mixture. Is it burnt? Add in your abalone meat. So the mixture with the shallots, garlic, and ginger are kind of burnt, but we still save the dish and that's all that matters. You can either add freshly cooked rice or, like I did, leftover rice, and then add your water. Pat down on the rice so it can absorb the water. Once the rice is submerged in the water, I just covered the pan with a lid and let it boil on the lowest heat for 18 minutes. Throughout those 18 minutes, I just kept on checking on the rice porridge and seeing if it got any thicker so I could add more water or your desired consistency. Take the pan off the heat and let it cool for a couple of minutes. And you're done. You could put this in a bowl and eat it as is, or what I like to do, I top it with fried garlic flakes, green onions, chili oil, and a little bit of calamansi because you can never go wrong with that fresh citrusy flavor.